Hello, thank you for joining us today on Mom with a Microphone. Today we have a very special guest, my sister, my soror, Miss Chandra Bowman. If you want to go ahead, just introduce yourself to the people.
Yeah, so my name is Chandra Bowman. I am a wife, a mom, and an entrepreneur. I have 2 children, and yeah, that's it. That's me.
That's it. That's me. So I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna fake apologize for my appearance, y'all. I don't care. If we're being honest, I just don't care. And this is what momming looks like sometimes. So I just want to be real with y'all. So today's topic actually is about momming and some mom experiences, and in a lot of ways and cases, we're gonna get pretty raw. And as a result of that, this is like your warning. If you feel like maybe this is not an episode for you based off of what I just said, this is your chance to keep rolling. If you feel like you're interested or intrigued, by all means, stick around. And if you maybe even hope to one day be a mom, I feel like the topic we have today is one that a lot of women don't talk about, or they don't feel like they have a safe enough space to talk about it. So we're going to jump right in. We're going to just start with the very beginning of your journey in regards to momming, which is pregnancy. So I'm not even going to say what we're talking about because I think you're going to get it once we start talking. But so first question for you, Chandra. How old were you when you got pregnant with your first baby?
I was 23 years old.
23 years old?
Yes.
And you were married?
Yes, I was married.
And this was was this a planned pregnancy?
No.
It was not planned.
No.
So walk me through this journey of finding out you're pregnant, what it felt like. How did you and your spouse react?
Yeah, so my husband, the sexy man is the wife, he actually was in the police academy, and I was going to school to be a medical assistant. And we had just got married and all that stuff. We were actually still living with our parents. And probably about a couple months after we got married, I started feeling sick, but I didn't really want to go take a pregnancy test. So I just kept on going on with life. And so he was like, one day he was just like, maybe you should take a pregnancy test. And I was like, oh, no, I'm not pregnant, whatever. But we went to Dollar Tree, and I actually did go get a pregnancy test. Yep, cheap, I know, but that's what I did. And we sat in my room that was at my mom's house, and he sat on the bed. I went to the restroom, took the pregnancy test. 2 lines came up. They were super dark, so I must have been pregnant for a very long time. And so I came out, and he was like, what did it say? And I was like, yep, I'm pregnant. And I was really distraught. I really did not want to be pregnant. He was not. He was happy. He was like, oh, sit on my lap. Come here. Mom, it's going to be okay. And I was like, I don't want a baby. I don't know what I'm going to do with a baby. And he was like, oh, you'll be fine. So I called my mom. I left out the room, called my mom. I was like, oh, Mom, I was so nervous to tell her, even though I'm an adult, I'm married. I still was nervous to tell my mom I'm pregnant. Went outside, sat on the porch, and I was like, hey, Mom, you might as well start buying baby clothes because I'm pregnant. And she was like, I already knew you were pregnant. And I'm like, oh, my God, everybody around me knew I was pregnant. I just probably did not want to face reality. I really just did not want a baby. Even though I was married, happily married, I did not want a baby.
Let's jump back to the why. I'm curious, why do you think, now you were nervous to tell your mom?
I think I was nervous because of disappointment, maybe. My family they were kind of judgmental about certain things. So even if you were married or whatever, they were kind of judgmental, and they kind of was just like, oh, you need to keep going with your life. You have not really touched the surface of anything yet. You need to make sure you know what you want to do with your career. You probably need to be married a little bit longer. So I think I was afraid of that. I had just got married and I'm pregnant now, so it wasn't planned. It wasn't something we were looking forward to that soon. And I was just nervous to tell her, yeah, we just got married and now we're pregnant. And I also didn't want her to think that we got married because I was pregnant, because I didn't know how long, I didn't know, so yeah, I was just nervous. Just didn't know what people would say.
So what was kind of your next step then? I mean, you had been married a couple months. Mm-hmm. You're in school to be a medical assistant. You're living with your mom.
Yeah, so...
And now you find out you're pregnant.
Yeah, so we kept living with my mom until I was about maybe 4 or 5 months pregnant. And we moved to these apartments in St. Louis. And I finished school. I graduated. I was 9 months pregnant walking across stage. But I was determined to finish school. And he graduated from the police academy. And we lived in that apartment until we had our son, until he was about 6 months old. And then we moved back into my childhood home. But yeah, so.
Okay, so next question. You fast forwarded to the 9 month mark, but I kind of want to hear a little bit about your pregnancy journey.
Yeah, so like she said in the beginning, raw and real, I did not like being pregnant. I do not like being pregnant. I have 2 children, but I do not like carrying the child. That might be hard for some because people for different reasons, that might be hard for some people to be like, why? But I did not like it. So for one, I didn't like all the changes that was going on with my body. I didn't know what was going on. I did not like all the changes. I was always sick. Everybody was like, oh, after, you'll be fine. Like it'll go away. The sickness will go away and all that. It never went away. I was always sick. I was always tired. I couldn't do anything. It felt like I couldn't do what I normally could. It's like it was on pause that I wasn't ready for, that nobody could really prepare you for. 2, when it like doctor's appointments and stuff, I had 3 different doctors and it was just not, I switched because the first doctor got my name wrong and told me I had high blood pressure. So I started to stress. And I didn't have high blood pressure, and they got my name wrong. So my last name is Bowman. They said that I was Brown. So they got it wrong. So I was stressing, thinking that I had high blood pressure. I did not have high blood pressure. So it probably created some high blood pressure after that. But then after that, switched to another doctor, and she just did not listen to anything that I wanted to do. On top of that, I was stressed out from the other doctor. So then I ended up finding another doctor at St. Anthony's, and she was pretty good. Decided to have my child there at St. Anthony's when she told me to go to Mobap or Mercy. But I decided St. Anthony's because it was closer, and I went and looked at their birth center, and it was nice. But when I actually went into labor, nobody really believed me. They kind of just was like, oh, you I guess they looked at movies or something and was like, oh, maybe you should be screaming or something like that. Like,
You're talking about the workers at the hospital?
Yeah, like they were like, oh, you don't look like you're in labor when they brought me in. They were like, you don't look like you're in labor. And I was like, well, I feel this pain in my back and I am in labor. Maybe I just deal with pain really well. I don't know. This is my first pregnancy. I don't know what to look forward to. I just know that I'm in labor, I'm in pain, and I'm here. And so they set me down. I said, hey, I had a doctor's appointment earlier. She said that I can get an epidural, all this stuff. And they were like, well, you're going to have to wait on that. So that was also stressful as well. I just did not like being pregnant. I didn't like the process of laboring. I didn't like any of that. It was just like, oh, my God, like I can't even advocate for myself and tell these people I'm hurting. I don't think I need to be screaming to do that.
Right.
I just know that I'm in pain and I know that I'm about to have this baby. So long story short, they came in to do, the epidural and all that stuff. Baby came and all that, everything. But after that, I had to have a C-section, emergency C-section. And they basically was just like, he's losing oxygen. If we don't do this right now, then you'll lose him. It was kind of like putting fear almost into me while I'm going through all this stuff. Yeah. So I just did not like the whole process at all. Like, I didn't like being pregnant. I was sick. I just didn't like the feeling of it. And I was trying to make myself enjoy it. Like some people were saying, like even friends, they were like, oh, you should be enjoying your pregnancy. You shouldn't be, this and that. But I just didn't like it. Didn't like the laboring process. Didn't like the birthing process.
Yeah.
I just didn't like it.
So, and even statistically, you know, there's data that shows that a lot of times Black women are at higher risk of all kinds of things because of what you just said.
Yeah.
Healthcare providers don't believe us. They feel like we're being dramatic. They feel like we're angry. Like the list goes on. And it's always interesting to hear someone's actual story of living through that, because I think a lot of times people try to write that off. Like, that's not real. Like, that's not real data. That can't be true.
Yeah.
And it absolutely is. Because I feel like, you know, I wonder how many other women would say that they had that same experience at the same hospital versus not. And then if you broke it down demographically, what that would look like. So you said a lot in there, like a lot. So going through so when did they finally realize, like, hey, maybe you are in labor and you're not just making it up?
So when I came in and I told them I was in labor, we got in there and I told them that I had a doctor's appointment earlier that day. And I was like, my doctor told me if I come in labor that I can get the epidural right away. I don't have to wait. The nurse were trying to make me wait. And they were like, well, we can't give it to you right now. So we'll have to call her. And I was just like, oh my God, what's going on? Like, how long I'm gonna wait? Because I don't know when they're gonna call her.
Right.
You know, all these things are going in my head. And I'm also freaking out because I don't know all what's going on with me.
Yeah.
So then there was a different nurse came back in and she was just like, yeah, she said you can go ahead and get it. So we'll have the anesthesiologist come in and give it to you.
And that's a whole nother wait too.
Yeah.
You still gotta wait.
Yeah, you got to wait on the anesthesia. Yeah.
They got to get there. And
Yeah. So that was, it did take them a while. So I had to labor. And I was hurting really bad. And I was just like, I know I want this epidural. I know I need it. I already talked to my doctor. They should be able to just give, like, there should be something in my chart. My brain is just going and I'm just not liking this whole process. But they ended up coming to do, probably about an hour later, they came to do the epidural. And by that time, they were after everything started working, they were turning me and different things like that. But I guess it kind of delayed some stuff. So my son that, I was pregnant with, they said his oxygen was starting to like drop or get low. And they were like, hey, we're going to have to just go ahead and do a C-section. So I pushed for a while, but then they were like, no, we're just going to go ahead and
progress.
Yeah, they were like, we're just going to have to go ahead and do a C-section. And I didn't know any better. So I was just like, well, I don't want him to die, so.
And how old is your son now?
He's 7.
He's 7. So think back 7 years ago. And even for me, I mean, my oldest is 8. And I don't feel like we had access to the information and terminology and this is what could happen and here's how you advocate for yourself and here's how, like the idea of writing a birth plan. I had a birth plan.
Yeah.
And I don't even know why I chose the things in my birth plan other than I was told to because I took a class. Like, I didn't research. I feel like a lot of times moms either, when they find out they're pregnant, they go and they do all the research, sometimes a little too much because then you find out stuff that's just like, and then there's Google. And on the flip side of that, you have the moms who don't because they don't want to learn anything. And there's some moms in the middle, I think, too. Where would you fall on that spectrum?
So I actually did take a birthing class at St. Anthony's where I had my baby. I took a birthing class and I did create a birthing plan and all that because I just wanted to feel like I was in control of something. Like, okay, I needed to go like this. I needed to do this. I need to do that, which none of that happened. I
was going to say, how much of your birth plan did you actually stick with?
None of that happened. Like, all the stuff that I put on that birth plan, it didn't go like that. So that was also disappointing because I didn't know any better. I was just like, okay, I should be able to tell them like this and it should go like that. But it did not go like that.
Do you feel like there was a process you had to go through to kind of grieve that? So for me, each time I was pregnant, I had found a podcast and one in particular, and I loved it. And I listened to just birth story after birth story. And there were moms who would talk about grieving, I guess, like the loss of their birth plan. Their birth plan didn't go the way that they wanted, or, their birth didn't go the way they wanted to. And like they had to grieve that loss because it impacted them, more than just physically.
Yeah, I can say that I had to grieve that is like a loss, because it's like, this did not go the way that I planned. Like nothing went the way that I planned. So it makes you kind of sad, because you're just like, I had no control, even though it's like a natural, like it's something that's naturally happened. You really don't know which way it's going to go.
Yeah.
But when you're pregnant and you're nervous, you're scared, you don't know how it's going to go, you want to have some sense of control. So you're just like, okay, I want this to go this way. And then when it doesn't, and then you have the baby and you're still dealing with all these emotions, you're just like, man, this just did not turn out. Like, I did not plan for a C-section. I didn't want to be cut. It's a major surgery. I didn't plan for that. Did not want that. So when they told me, oh, you can stop pushing, we're going to go ahead and do this, I was like, oh my God. Like,
and they never asked you.
They didn't never ask me. No, they just said, they kind of put fear in me, like, okay, he's not getting enough oxygen, so we're going to have to go ahead and do this. They didn't explain, like, why he's not getting enough oxygen. What's going on? Or even
give the option of, you know,
what's going on? Yeah, they didn't give me no option. They were just like, this isn't happening, we're doing this. And I was just like, I remember crying, calling my aunt. I was like, because she's had C-sections. So I remember crying, calling her, like, is this going to hurt? Like, what are they going to do? Like, how is she? Was like, oh, you won't feel anything. She was trying to make me feel better. I was mad at my husband. He was trying to console me. And I was just like, don't touch me. I don't want to be touched. Like, I'm going to have this scar for the rest of my life. I don't want this. Like, this is not what I planned. And it happened.
So talk about your recovery then.
The recovery, oh God, it wasn't a good one. So going through a major surgery, you can't, like, for one, they kind of dope you up a little bit more to go through that, so you don't feel it. But then you kind of, it takes you a couple of days to come down from that. So you really don't get to hold your baby. You don't really get to, you're high. And it's not a really good feeling, because you're just like, I don't know what to do. They're coming in doing all this stuff. You can't really say anything. No, I don't want that. No. So the recovery, I didn't take it very well, because for one, I didn't prepare for a C-section. I didn't know.
You mean like mentally?
Yeah, mentally. I didn't prepare for a C-section. So I didn't know, like, how my body was going to heal. I didn't know, you know, what to do. They were like, okay, don't hold your baby like this. Don't do that. So that was also frustrating, because they didn't want you to, like, pick them up a certain way. They didn't want you to bend over. And
because of your...
Yeah. So it was like, okay, for like 2 weeks, I'm like, can't even really hold them and really get that emotional connection. For one, I didn't really want to be pregnant, didn't like it, didn't have a good birthing experience. And now here I am, can't even barely pick them up. My husband had to do a lot of the work for the first 2 weeks.
Actually, I was just about to ask. So throughout this whole process of being in labor and all that, and even while you were pregnant, like, what was he doing? What was he like?
So my husband was very patient, and he was patient the whole time. Like, I can honestly say that I was mean. Looking back on it,
sometimes it's like that.
Looking back on it, I was really mean, because I was just like, I had this whole idea in my head after I had my son and we got home and everything like that. Well, let's rewind back to, like, the hospital. So after, you know, I had Jacoby, then he was pretty chill, pretty laid back or whatnot. He kind of, like, let the doctors take control of things. And I kind of didn't really like that, because I already had, like, an alt with them, from them just like, we're not going to do this. This is what you're going to do. I kind of felt, I'm like, dude, I don't want to listen to nothing else they got to say. Like, when are we leaving this hospital? Like, I had to stay there for a week.
A week?
A week, yes. I stayed there for 5 days in that hospital. And when I had Jacoby, I remember him, like, pooping up his back. And the lady came in and the nurse came in and she goes, oh, poor baby. Oh. And I'm sitting here with C-section. My husband's over here asleep. And I'm like, nurse, can you change my baby? I can't get up.
She had no intention of, like,
she had no intention. No, she just came in, she scanned my wrist, and she was just like, oh, poor baby. And my son was just crying. It made me cry. My husband sleep, son crying, and I can't get up. So I'm just like, I just want to go home. I remember having, like, after pains, after, like, the medicine wore off. And I remember I asked the lady, I said, hey, you know, can I get some more pain medicine? And she was like, yeah. She came back with ice and chips. And I was like, ma'am, I am not hungry. I am in pain. I
I'm
want
confused.
this. Yeah, she came back with ice in that little hospital cup and some chips. And I said, ma'am, I said, I was so upset and I was trying not to be super mean because I'm like, I can't get up. I can't do nothing. And my baby's over there. And I'm like, ma'am, I'm not hungry. I don't want any ice. I'm in pain. I need pain medicine. Well, I have to go and check. And I'm like, I understand that. But you left and said you were going to check and you came back with ice and chips. I don't want that. It was like they weren't listening to nothing I was saying.
And that's exactly what data is showing.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my God. And here I am laid in the hospital with stitches in pain. I'm like, I just want to go home because I just felt like I would be more comfortable to recover at home. Yeah. But my husband, he was pretty chill. He kind of like during the pregnancy, I'm like, you need to learn how to do this. You need to learn how to do this because we need to learn how to do this stuff. And he was just like, oh, we got it. We got it. And then after, we had Jacoby in the hospital, he was just chill. He kind of just let them take control. And that kind of made me mad too, because I was just like, I want us to like advocate for ourselves. Like, I don't want them to just tell us what we're just going to do all the time with my body and with my kid.
Yeah.
So it was just like, that's how it felt. And he was just like, oh, it's okay, And I'm like, no, I just felt like I wanted some sense of control, I guess, of something, because I had no sense of control for 9 months. And then get to the hospital, everybody's just like, oh, you're not in labor. Oh, you look fine. Girl, you're in labor? Yeah, I'm in labor. I'm in pain. I'm just nervous too. And I'm trying to listen and make sure I know what you guys are doing before I just go crazy. I need to be aware of what's going on. For one, I'm nervous. I'm Black. I'm a woman. I'm nervous. I know, I've heard stories, so I know. So I need to listen. But I didn't like none of that experience.
Well, let's fast forward because you did it again.
I did it again.
You did it again.
So fast forward to my daughter. She was planned. Now, I did the whole trying to do the planning again and trying to feel I was going to actually get a doula.
Okay.
But we were still in like the heart of COVID. So they were like, either you do a doula or your husband can come in. You either can't have both. Okay. And I was like, well, that's not going to be fair to him. So I didn't get the doula, but I did more research and I switched hospitals. So I didn't have my baby at St. Anthony's. I had my baby at Mercy.
Okay.
That experience was a lot different. It was actually a lot better. Now, being pregnant, I still did not like being pregnant. I still did not like being pregnant. We just didn't want Jacoby being the only child. So we planned for her. I can honestly say that I may have been a little bit more mentally prepared with her because I knew I didn't like being pregnant with my son. And I was just like, okay, I have to go through this so I can get the second child that we want.
Yeah.
But the process, I still didn't like the process.
Okay, so you didn't like being pregnant.
No.
You didn't enjoy your experience, while you were pregnant, not during your labor, your stay at the hospital. Fast forward, you did it again.
Yeah, so our second child was planned. So we planned for our daughter. I think I kind of mentally prepared a little bit more for having her. I still did not like being, going through the process of pregnancy. I still did not enjoy it as much. But it was something that I kind of was kind of prepared for,
right?
Because I kind of prepared my mind for it. And I was just like, okay, I know my body's going to change. I know I'm going to go through this. I'm going to have things going on that I can't really control. Now, I still did make a birthing plan and things like that. But I don't think I was as stressed about sticking to the birthing plan as I was with my son. But I did switch hospitals. So I had my daughter at a different hospital at Mercy. That made a lot of difference. Like it was a more positive experience, actually having her. The nurses were very concerned. They showed that. They showed, sympathy. They were just like, hey, we're here to take care of you and the baby. It felt kind of like I wasn't alone, like going through, the laboring and the process of that. I did have to have another C-section, but they kind of prepared me more for it. They were just like, hey, the doctor even prepared me
So
more
you didn't
for
go
it.
in knowing you were going to have another one?
So in the beginning, no. So we talked about having, what is it called? VBAC.
VBAC.
We talked about doing that. And we also talked about planned C-section. They did put me on the books for the planned C-section. They let me know the pros and cons of both the VBAC and the C-section. So when I actually did go into labor, they were like, hey, you get to choose, but this is your pros and cons.
So you're way more involved in this whole process already, it sounds like.
Yeah. So when I went in, I was in labor. I went in and the nurses, it was already in my chart and everything from my doctor. She was really great. She was just like, hey, the nurse was like, hey, we already told your doctor you're in labor. Do you want to labor this out or do you want to go ahead with the C-section?
Same doctor, different doctor from the first time?
Different doctor.
So a fourth new doctor?
Yes.
Okay.
There's a different doctor, different hospital. So the nurses were really good at letting me know what was in my chart, letting me know what the doctor had already put in there. So when I already came in labor, they hooked me up and they were like, hey, you have the choice if you want to go ahead and labor through this or if you want to just go straight in with the C-section. Yeah. C-section was already scheduled, but I still had the choice,
right.
which felt great.
Yeah.
Now, when I got the pros and the cons, which I knew the pros and the cons before, but they had to say them again. They had to read them again to me while I was in that process. Right. I didn't want to really go through trying to do the VBAC because of the cons that they had given me. So I went ahead and chose to do the C-section again. But I didn't feel as bad because I got to choose that.
Yeah.
So I was just like, okay, I could have chosen to do the VBAC, but I chose the C-section. So I felt good having that choice.
So going back to the thing that we're kind of talking about, and that's the pregnancy. You did not enjoy being pregnant either time. Mm-hmm. A lot of women say that they experience different things based on the gender of their child. Mm-hmm. You had one of each. So what similarities and differences did you experience between the two?
Just the cravings. Cravings, and I would say weight gain. I think I gained more weight with my daughter than I did with my son. With my son, I was just all baby. And with her, I gained weight. I actually had like sciatica pain that I did not have with my son. With her, I had that going on. The only good thing, my hair grew a lot with her, but not with my son. But that was about it. I mean, the cravings, I had certain cravings that were different. Like I craved like pizza sauce with my son, and with my daughter, I just wanted like fries or something like that. But nothing like I think the pregnancy still was kind of the same, just small differences, not huge differences.
Do you feel like, did you feel like you had like a guess, like I know that this is a boy or I know this was a girl, like the second time or even the first time?
No, neither time. Neither. I didn't know. I know with my son, I wanted a girl. And I did cry in the hospital. I just was going through a whole lot with that pregnancy. Yeah. They were like, okay, you're going to come in. We're going to do the ultrasound for the gender, And I was like, okay, I know I want a girl. And they told me I was having a boy. And I came out before I got to see the doctor, came out, sat out there, and I was crying. The lady was like, are you okay? And I was like, I just wanted a girl. And she was like, well, as long as it's healthy. I was just like, my emotions just all over the place. Then with my daughter, I didn't expect anything. I was just like, long as the baby's healthy, I don't want to say it's a boy or girl. It is what it is.
So as much as you didn't enjoy pregnancy, were there moments or times or things that you can say, as much as I don't like being pregnant, this was okay, or I liked this, or I enjoyed this little part, or whatever?
I enjoyed, it was kind of like a half and half. I enjoyed the baby, like feeling the baby move. That was enjoyable, like for both me and my husband, because it's like, okay, it's real, like it's a real baby in there, So
I did that.
yeah. So that was enjoyable, but I also didn't like that feeling either.
Girl, what does that even mean?
Like I was just, it felt weird. But it kind of still let me know that the baby was healthy, moving. That was a good sign that the baby is, healthy, moving, alive in there. So it was kind of like half and half, but that was enjoyable.
I want to jump into a couple of the more hard hitter questions. So, and this is kind of why I gave the warning at the beginning of the podcast. So, tell me what this experience was like for you relationally, like with people outside of your spouse. You didn't enjoy being pregnant. Is that something that you verbalized to people that you expressed? Okay. Yes. And how did that impact your relationships?
So, I had a friend group and a girlfriend group, and we would talk about stuff like that. But a lot of them they hadn't had children yet. Some of them were married, some of them weren't. And a lot of them, they wanted children. Like some of them tried to have children, they just couldn't have children. Some of them had miscarriages. So when I got pregnant, I didn't tell them until after I had like my child and everything. I was just like, oh, I didn't like being pregnant. And I thought I was like comfortable enough to say it, because I'm like, oh, we've known each other, they'll just be like, okay, girl, why? But they were just like, you should be grateful that you can have a baby. You shouldn't be complaining, So it kind of made me feel like I get what they're saying, but my reality was just, I did not like. And I thought that I could just express that because even during the time when I was pregnant and afterward, I feel like I went through a season of depression. Like, I felt like, oh my God, some of the feelings that I had, I don't know why I had them. Like, I can't really put a finger on why I was sad or crying or just sometimes maybe I did not want to be bothered with my baby, so. But when I actually did tell them, I didn't like being pregnant. I didn't like the whole process. Laboring sucked, delivery sucked. I didn't like it. They didn't take that too well. So I can't say it really impact our friendship, but it definitely put like a stinger in my back. Like, darn, I thought I could say this. We're women. Like, we go through things that, and if we want to be raw and real, like, there's women, they're like, oh, my period is nothing. And there's some just like, I hate that time of the month. I just absolutely hate it. You have some people that, and they're okay with expressing that I don't like it. Some people are like, I don't mind it. I thought that I could be comfortable with saying that to another woman, but it wasn't.
And I think, even in my experience, having close friends who struggle with infertility and who don't have kids and want to have kids, it's really hard to feel like you are allowed to have feelings if they are not the same feelings. And so that's a very sometimes awkward space to navigate. And sometimes it can put strain on relationships in ways that people don't come back from or don't come back from for a while. So, it's tough. It's tough because even when you feel like you are safe enough, and even if people say, hey, yeah, you're safe, you can say that here, there's still that chance that it will put a strain on those relationships. So now some of those women have babies, have kids.
Yes.
Have any of them come back and said, you know what?
Yeah, 2 of them.
I feel you.
Yeah, 2 of them. And they even said after the fact, they were like, I understand what you were saying. Like, I understand what you were going through. And which it was kind of refreshing to just talk about and just be like, okay, well, this didn't affect us, as friends.
Which is good, because it could have.
Yeah.
And some people it does.
Yeah. And we still do have friends in the group that they have not had children yet. So they may have not stressed it to us that they, now that, can y'all stop talking about that? They may have not, I haven't noticed that, but they could still feel that way.
Right.
And they could go home and be like, oh, I just wish they just, you just never know.
Which is still their reality.
Yeah.
Just as much as not enjoying being pregnant. And sometimes acknowledging that momming is hard and sometimes we don't want to, because it's a very selfless thing. You just kind of always have to put other people before. There are a lot of other people depending on you to get, so it can be a very challenging space to be in. I just have a couple more questions for you. Okay. What do you think has been going through the pregnancy journey and knowing that you didn't enjoy it either time, knowing the second time going into it that you probably weren't going to enjoy it again? What has been like your biggest lesson learned or the most valuable takeaway from the experience?
I would say that even when you are going through something that is not, that's less desirable, something good can still come out of it. So, I love my children.
Right.
Sometimes they get on my nerves.
Heard that.
But even in those hard times when I was going through all those processes, it was something that was very good that came out of it. Yeah. So that was a good thing for me, for me and my husband. So, yeah.
Thank you so much for your time and for being on our podcast. I do have one more thing, not really question. If you had one piece of advice to give other women that are going through what you went through or will go through, or have gone through and maybe haven't figured out how to sort through or kind of make those relationships work, and are maybe feeling trapped, like they can't just be honest about something this serious, because it's something that can really cause like a detriment, I guess, to relationships. What's one bit of advice that you have for women?
I would say to allow yourself to feel what you're feeling. Allow yourself to feel what you're feeling, because when you try to hold it back and you're in denial with yourself, it kind of can make things a little bit more depressing sometimes, because you're just like, I should be feeling better because everyone else around me is telling me that I should.
It expects you to, yeah.
Yeah, but because it can really send you in a place when you're in that dark place already, it can send you like deeper to where you can't really get out of it. So if you're just like, hey, I am just not enjoying this process, I don't like being pregnant, or I don't like what's going on, still try to find, and this is something that I did not do the first time around, still try to find something that can connect you with you. So if you need to just go get your nails done, your toes done, if you need to pray, you need to get a massage, try to find something so you don't go super deep, but still allow yourself to feel what you're feeling. Don't try to fight it all the time, because you're human and you're a woman, and we do have a lot of emotions, and sometimes we can't control it. We just have to let us feel that feeling, but try to bring it back together, after that.
Well, thank you again. Thank you so much for being here. Lots of good stuff. Like I know someone's going to be helped through this. So thank you again for your time.
You're welcome.
Thank you for joining us today and listening. If this is something that resonates with you, like Chandra said, like give yourself space and freedom and grace to feel and experience, because these are very real, valid feelings and emotions. So yeah, thank you for listening in.
Bye.